Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everyone, wherever you're joining from. My name is Lucio Daza. If you are here for the roundtable on the hidden cost of test maintenance and a strategy to lower the burden, you are in the right place. We have quite a bit of an attendance today, so we're going to spend a few seconds letting everyone trickle in and dial in. So, in the meantime, if you want to say hello in the chat, please do so. And we are going to get started momentarily. And again, as I see people trickling in, if you're here for the hidden cost of test maintenance and strategies to lower the burden, you are in the right place. We're going to start in about 30 seconds. So if you need water, coffee, or tea, now is the time to go get it. Um, I see, and also if you want to say hello in the chat and tell me where you're joining from, I'll tell you I am located in Orlando, Florida. So it is 10:32 p.m. my time on a beautiful Wednesday night, December 4th. And with me, I have Gandharv Madan. And where are you joining from tonight?
Hi, Lucio. I'm joining from New Delhi, India.
New Delhi. All right. So I imagine you're joining a beautiful morning, 9:02 in the morning for you. And Hima, how are you? I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Lucy. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Staying up late because I want to bring a lot of content for the community tonight. So I'm excited. So are you in India as well, Hima?
Yes, I am in the Silicon Valley of India, Bangalore.
Oh, there you
go. It is the new, pre-Christian name, Bangalore.
And Bangalore, there you are. Excellent. Perfect.
Of India.
Nice. I am completely ignorant of the Indian geography. So are you guys close, or are these two completely different places in India? Like, are you
Totally different. Totally different.
It's almost like 3 hours flight journey.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for being here today. So I think we have plenty of attendees joining in. I know more will continue trickling in. I see a lot of people from LTI Mindtree, which is where Hima is joining us from. So I am assuming this is your cheerleading squad, Hima. You have quite the support today. So that's pretty cool.
That's good to see.
Let's take those names down and make sure we give them kudos after the webinar. So thank you again for being here. And Gandharv, I need to pick on you a little bit because I am quite curious about your brand name, which is the Salesforce testing guy. And I was poking at your LinkedIn a few minutes ago, and I've noticed that you have, at the very least, on LinkedIn, 11,000 followers. That's quite the following. You must be doing something very cool out there. Can you tell us a little bit of what the Salesforce testing guy is all about?
Sure. Thanks, Lucio. So basically, Lucio, I'm solving a very simple problem with a big impact. Like in the space of CRM, everyone is talking about development, and only development. But what if you are looking for a quality, why we are not actually talking about testing? So I have created a space that if a person who is into the space of a Salesforce, how he or she can, grow their career in the field of a testing as a Salesforce tester. So basically, I'm solving 3 different problems: how to create more awareness about CRM as a skill, how to make sure you as a tester know what is actually CRM testing, and last problem that I'm solving is that why testing is actually needed in the space of a CRM, because it's a very big billion dollar market. So how as a tester we can add value in it. And in order to pursue this, I am using the mechanism of a podcast where I have recorded more than 150 plus different podcasts till now. On every Wednesday, I launched a podcast with my new guest. And the best part that I'm very proud of that. I have a very 50% ratio of female and 50% ratio of male. So equality is the one that I have. So
Magnificent.
So this is great about me.
That is great. Well, I'm very, very happy to have you here. And I'll to the audience, I will drop Gendar's link on the chat in a few minutes for you guys to follow him. And yeah, I mean, that's impressive. I hope I can have that amount of followers when I grow up. So I will definitely get a tip. I hope I can get a tip or two from you. And now, Hima, I'm also poking at your profile. I don't want to put an age or a date on you, but I'm looking that you have quite a bit of experience in the industry. And to play with dates a little bit, you were graduating from your bachelor's degree when I was studying high school. So so that is very cool to see. And you right now are working as the associate vice president at LTI Mindtree. What is your focus on at LTI right now? Is it around testing and what can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Lucio, yes, all my experience is almost like 26, 27 years of experience is all in testing primarily, more specifically in the specialized, which is technology oriented kind of a stuff. So started, as you rightly said, started when testing was not even a, known career kind of a situation. And at LTI Mindtree, I had the specialized testing associated to automation, which is the intelligent automation, performance testing, resilience, service virtualization, cloud. Apart from that, I also had the alliances relationship for testing. So that's the portfolio.
So like we say here in the US, you know a thing or two about testing and everything around it. So that's great. I'm
Yeah,
for sure the
so
audience.
Yeah, so Lucy, in the journey over this, I have kind of incubated more than 15 odd new service lines, both in at LTI Mindtree and my prior experience at Infosys as well. So that's how it has been. So always try and look at what's happening in the industry, the technology changes, and come up with a new offering or a solution or a framework kind of stuff.
Wonderful. So to the audience, please pay attention to what Hima has to say and what Gandalf has to say. These two masterminds in the testing industry will have a lot to share today with us. With that said, before we get started, one of the things that I want to do is first I want to thank to all our audience for being here today, regardless of where you're joining from. A couple of rules of engagement. This is going to be recorded and this is going to be shared on demand shortly after we're done with this roundtable. This is going to be a very open conversation, and we are doing this for you. We want you to understand what is the topic that we're going to discuss today. With that said, if you have any questions, please go ahead and use the Q&A panel that you have in the Zoom interface that you're using to dial in on this webinar. Also, feel free to put any questions or any comments that you want on the chat window. I see some people raising their hands. Unfortunately, we won't be able to let you in the conversation, but if you have any comments, go ahead and put them in the chat window as well. In addition to that, I want to make it clear, this is something being sponsored by Catalan, we are not going to talk about our product today. We are not going to answer any questions about the product or any issues that you may be having or any tips that you may want to learn. I want to invite you to go ahead and join our community and take a look at our documentation if that is something that you want to learn about today. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, also, we have a Q&A session at the very end of the webinar, so please don't wait until then to ask any questions that you may have. The reason why I'm making so much emphasis about using the Q&A panel or the little button that you see at the bottom is because if we cannot get to your question, that will allow us to capture your information so we can follow up with you and answer any questions that you may have. All right. So today we're going to talk about a very interesting topic. And I almost forgot to mention, this is the second episode of the second season of the Quality Horizon Roundtable series. Please go to catalan.com/webinars. We will share the link with you so you can capture previous sessions and also put on your calendar the next ones that we're going to be delivering once a month. So we are going to talk today about the hidden cost of test maintenance and strategies to lower the burden. And one of the things that as my team was sharing with me all the talking points that we're going to discuss today, I came across this Gartner report that talks about, and I'll put the link in here, is publicly available. It says that 16% of respondents to one of the surveys that they launch um, feels that high maintenance cost is one of the significant challenges of automated testing or software testing in general. So we're talking not just creating the test and not just executing the test or managing the test, but we're talking about the maintenance of all these things that we're creating. And then this is also a point of friction, especially when software grows in complexity. And so this is something that we're going to discuss today. We're going to emphasize on what are the challenges and what is the role of test maintenance into this whole equation of software testing. And so we're very happy to have here Gandharv and Hima, who are going to share with us high-level views, lessons learned, do's and don'ts, and we have a section here also for real stories they're going to share with us. What are the strategies that they have applied in their teams, and as Hima said, she has quite a portfolio and projects that she has worked on, and Gandharv, I imagine you also in your conversations with industry expert have adopted some information as well. So let's go ahead and start talking about that hidden cost of test maintenance in test automation and software testing. And Hima, I would like to start with you. Can you share some high level views on what have you seen and what do you think is the cost associated or the challenges associated with test maintenance overhead, especially when projects are scaling in big industries?
Thank you, Lucia. I mean, the way I look at it is today everybody is grappling with this, kind of I would say a monster in the in the room. It's like obesity. I would say everybody is working. It's like people just think that okay, I need to get automated, jump in, identify the tools, do an ROI, and then get started on the kind of maintenance without even looking at the cascading impact of the maintenance of test suit. It's like it's like your lifestyle, the way you maintain yourself. That's exactly where it comes to it. So the way I look at it, if you don't plan properly, you're failing to plan. Obviously, you're planning to fail. That's the way I look at it. So a lot of places, what I have seen in multiple projects is they just want to get on to automation. Okay, I've heard about in-sprint automation. I've heard about left shift. I've heard about early automation. Some all these jargons they want to get onto without even realizing whether it is going to fit in their landscape, whether it is really going to yield the right ROI, or subsequent releases really going to make use of these test cases in the long term. It's just like oftentimes it's very short-sightedness. And we have seen in large, I would say in financial institutions and many large enterprises, these test cases are kind of becoming, I would say, accumulated and gone into large sizes. When I say large sizes, it's like 20,000, 30,000 kind of thing that needs to be executed. And you have a very short window to do the regression win, and they want to go live. Whereas you don't have that kind of optimization done on your, in your test suite to make sure that you're able to, achieve the benefits that is realized. So the challenges that I've seen, they just jump on without even looking into it, without even long-term planning, right? It's like your resolution. Yes, we will make sure that we'll do the maintenance. Maybe first release, second release. It's like, now the new year is coming. People will say, I want to reduce my weight by X kg. People sign up for gym membership, okay? And like gym members, the gym gets a lot of goes laughing to the bank. But after 3 weeks, nobody is there. That's
Right.
exactly what is happening here as well. So at the end of the day, it's the lifestyle. Similar to the lifestyle is your maintenance, test automation maintenance. And there are a lot of parameters that you need to look into, when you actually start, how do you go about it? So it doesn't start after you finish your automation and you have the scripts and no, you have to start from the requirement stage itself. So if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail.
I really like that line, and I hope you don't have it copyrighted anywhere because I will definitely steal it. But joking aside, I mean it's true. Like if you don't, I imagine automation on its own, or like creating um the testing itself is just part of the whole strategy. As you mentioned, you have to have the plan of, okay, now I'm going to go ahead and create all these tests. What is going to happen afterwards? And then to your analogy of the gym, like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do all these exercises. Don't stop working when you drop the 1 stone or 1 pound or kilo. How are you going to maintain that kilo down, right? So, Gandharv, what is your view on this? Like, I mean, Hima talks about strategy and planning. Can you tell me from your experience what are some of the consequences that you have seen um, that have happened as the result of poor test maintenance planning or poor test maintenance in general?
Oh, sure. To be very honest, as per my experience, we have to understand the importance of a word maintenance first. Maintenance is just like a subscription that you are paying every month without even being using it. This is that we are using it. And every organization, whether it is a startup, consultancy organization, or a product-based company, only looking for three factors: how to reduce the cost, how to increase the quality, and how we can quickly deliver the product. But somewhere maintenance is the thing where we are actually not even looking for sometimes. Now, as per my experience, five different key points that I really observe, and five consequences have five different results. So, very first is bugs in production, where you can say the defect leakage is there. If we are not maintaining our test cases or the consequences, we can't even satisfy our customer, because every customer is the king hyphen queen, you can say that, of the market. So we have to satisfy it from that area as well. Now, path panic. Path panic is bit, you can say that, managerial term I'm using here. If we don't know the correct path to maintain the particular test that we have created, then there is no sense of using that particular thing. The main result of that path panic is we are actually missing the deadlines. And when we are missing the deadlines, automatically escalations will happen. And when escalation word will come into the picture, we only known where is your tester. No one is actually talking about development at that point in time. So this is a very real scenario. Followed by, at the end, cost is quite very high, and we can't expect ROI as per the cost that we have already invested. So basically, as a tester, automation or maintenance that we are actually looking for compounding effect. But if the cost is high, we can't even looking for a high ROI. We are only ultimately, letting down our cost to high and result is very low. So there is no sense. Followed by, like, reputation hits. For example, if we are working for a big client and we still are not be able to maintain all those things, then there is a very high chance that we are actually losing all those opportunities for the near future as well. Just because of these particular functionalities, companies are not even surviving because they are looking for big enterprise clients, but at the end, they are not be able to maintain all those points that they have, maintained for the other things. Now, followed by the thing is we are actually calculating the business impact or not. Because at the end, cash flow should be there. It should not gonna hamper with all those things. So if we are using these five consequences as per my experience, if we can take care of all those things, we can survive. But if we are not following all those five pointers, still, believe me or not, Lucio, and everyone who is watching, we are in the wrong direction. So these are my observations as per my experience and perception, Lucio.
We're going to do a pop quiz at the end of the webinar to everyone, and one of the questions is going to be what are the 5 points that you just described. So let's go ahead. Let's do a favor to everyone who's participating. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to quick pop quiz anyone, but let's summarize those. Give me the key 5 points again. Let's go ahead and list them so they're clear for the audience.
Bugs in production, bracket defect leakage, path panic, high cost. Other than that, reputation hits, or you can say that loss of opportunities. You can also pass it. And last but not the least point, you can say that blind spots where we are actually impacting the business. So these are the 5 pointers.
There you go. There you go. And I hope everyone is taking notes. I'm sure everyone is heads down, right? And but that is excellent. That is a very point, an excellent point. And I want to follow up with you because that to me, Gandharv, you're talking about the scaling to a sense. Hima, in your experience, what are some of the issues that you have seen teams facing when, especially in enterprises, when teams are growing, when software is growing in complexity, when we are scaling out automation? What are some of the challenges that you have seen, and especially around test maintenance? And I guess one of the angles to look at this question is, um, we have seen in the industry that's we have said it before, that automation is not a magic solution for everything. You cannot show up in an industry and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and automate everything. I'm going to go ahead and remove all the manual testing that I have in place, and I'm going to go ahead and just automate the heck out of everything, and that is going to solve world hunger. There is then that is going to be a problem associated with that. So can you tell us a little bit about that? What are the challenges that you have seen, especially when scaling automation? You mentioned one of them was not planning or actually planning to fail, but can we elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah. So, Lucio, I mean, I know as Gandhar rightly mentioned, lot of the times when the modules are small, earlier it was waterfall, now today it is all agile. So when they see certain set of test cases working, wow, this is working, let's go ahead. And they just follow the same path without even realizing whether this framework that we are bringing in is going to standardize, is it going to be scalable. Lot of times I have seen in, especially in the large, because there is there is a lot of I would say baggage that has got inherited. These frameworks has become monolithic. They might be like so monolithic, you have 30,000, 40,000, kind of test cases. And we really don't know which cases needs to be executed for which releases. Do we need to execute all these test cases? That's the question. And what I've seen is there is many times the test cases are hard coded, the values are hard coded, right? So it is becoming very tough where to go in. It's like looking for a, you know, needle in a haystack, when the values are getting hard coded out there. The second thing is people are just using whatever standards they want. There has to be some kind of a normalization, or the standard procedures, standard coding standards, best practices, nothing of that sort. As I said, I just want to automate. There is so much of pressure from the project management that they want to get it. They just look into it and they also come up with a budget for the tool. So what happens is, without even realizing that whether this tool actually fits for the long-term plan or the next couple of quarters, the next couple of years, they just go ahead. Okay, I have a budget X dollars, and I need to work around it. So they just bring in those kind of stuff. And today everybody is trying to sell their tool is the best. So they go ahead and procure, keeping in mind the budget out there, do ROI and say this is good. 3 quarters, there is something else added. This tool doesn't even support it. I mean, one of the classic example is, it's a CRM product, one of the OEM product, and they bought a tool which does not even support. But despite we going and saying this X tool is not compliant to scale, not compliant to automate, they just renew it. So the amount of effort that you're trying to do a workaround, build other utilities, all kinds of magic that you want to do, it's still not going to scale up. So you're spending more effort on trying to make it work than actually automating it. Right? That's some of the things. Wrong frameworks. Somebody says Java Selenium framework, go ahead. But is it really going to scale when assume, scale up? No idea. That feasibility study is not getting done. And also we have seen that people just jump in without even assessing the technical complexity, fitment of the tool, as well as the business priority. So all these will be in 3 different dimensions. Or actually all this should converge. So then only you will be able to write ROI kind of things. Whether has to get into integration with CDCI, with the test data. I mean, that's another big monster out there, I would say, test data kind of thing, and the environment part of it. So all these actually attributes The other bigger problem that I've seen is not having the right governance, metrics, and knowledge management. Because over the period of years, team also, rotate and, all kinds of things. So there is no proper KT or handover that's happening, and there is no proper knowledge management that happens. This is also leading to disaster. So what, by the time we come after 4 quarters or 5 quarters, the 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 maintenance of the suit becomes so difficult that they say, boss, it's better to be start redoing from scratch. It's like, pay, and you want to, in a building, you want to do a modification. At times you feel it's better we demolish the complete building and redo the whole building. So that's the way it happens. And people use, because on enterprises, people work from different parts of the globe. What we see is also each team does think that they are the center of the universe and have their own set of tools. And we want to make sure that we all come in a page. Everybody says, my tool, my script is better. My tool, my script is better. But is it working? Is the sum of the things should give the results, right, at an enterprise level? You're seeing that is also a big, big issue, and the ROI is actually negative at some places. So there are multiple other things. People want to get into Gen AI without even knowing that whether you have the maturity level to implement getting Gen AI kind of a stuff. I mean, everybody wants to get onto the tick mark. I want to get this, in sprint automation, Gen AI, CDCI, expert tool. I am working with this tool. But at the end of the day, is it really benefiting is a question. And there is also an intense pressure to release. So all this actually complicate the whole maintenance itself as an issue. As I said, goes to our lifestyle. I mean, you have to do walking, you have to do, diet control, all this. It's just not like I lose, 1 pound and I'm done with it. No, it has to be consistent. So that's the way it is. It is a long-term strategy. It is a marathon. Let me tell you, test maintenance is a marathon and not a sprint.
Not a sprint. That is fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And I really like, and I see that is resonating a lot with the audience. I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up and applause and a lot of hearts coming up, especially when you started talking about it is at some point it gets so complex that is better to just destroy it all and start from scratch. Yeah. So let me flip that script a little bit. How can enterprises avoid getting to that point? And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. I imagine there's a lot of people that get there and for whatever reason they say, let's go ahead and automate everything, and they do it without a strategy. How can we avoid building these huge automated building that at some point we have to say, oh, I need to take this whole thing down and start from zero because I cannot maintain that. What would be, what would be a way to solve for that? Either you, Hima, or Gandharv, you feel free to jump or whatever idea you have.
A couple of things that I feel we should definitely look at. Plan. At least it's okay to sit and do the brainstorming session how you want to adopt for it. Modularize the test suite so that it is scalable. If something is not working, we just, disengage only that point kind of a stuff. So that's one part of it. Proper governance of which modules needs to be executed and constantly review what is the redundancy out there. People have a lot of test cases which are so redundant. In one of my past experience, I can tell you more than 15% of the test cases were redundant. Why would you want to even look and execute? That is actually adding to it, and it's also making it a lot of other complication factors out there. And don't force fit, automation if there is no ROI or return of ROI is negative. Don't force fit tools. Don't force fit any frameworks out there. It's okay to be transparent to the project teams or whoever is the thing saying that this will not work beyond certain time. At least there is a conscious decision taken out there. So we at LTI Mindtree, keeping in mind all this, and we have come up with something called as frugal automation, which actually helps us to, reduce many of these factors. As well as, today a lot of clients are talking about, every organization, every government is talking about sustainability, right? They want to reduce the carbon footprint and all those things.
Right.
So this particular frugal automation also not only helps us in doing, reducing the maintenance efforts and looking into all those aspects, but also helps in the sustainability factor so that you reduce your contributions towards your carbon footprint as well. So that's another thing. But definitely, some of the things plan, have right knowledge management, governance, coding standards, scripting standards, best practices and processes. And please, at the end of the things, please spend, even it could be 30 minutes when you brainstorm, a lot of, you get to see how we can minimize the repeatability of these efforts. That's another thing that our rework we do. It's just not maintenance, it's also about the rework. How do we reduce the rework and how do you reduce the re-effort? And proper release mechanisms. People just say, I finished automation, they jump onto the next sprint and things without even realizing, right? So it is a marathon.
It sounds like it requires a lot of strategizing, a lot of and to your point, not being short sighted, but looking ahead of what is going to happen once the methodologies are implemented. Gandalf, what do you think about all these? I mean, he must share with us a lot of golden nuggets in here about what is it that we should do and what we shouldn't. How have you seen this happening then with your
Yes.
the talks that you have had with other experts in the industry?
Yes. Consider an example. I want to start my answer with a real life example. Like I am currently as a senior Salesforce tester. So basically, I'm testing the Salesforce based projects. So in Salesforce, we have to first understand the platform first. And Salesforce platform is quite complex, believe me or not, because of so many reasons. Shadow DOM structure, frequent UI updates, and other than that, different releases over the year, spring, summer, and winter. So every time as a tester, we have to maintain all those automation. This is the thing. Now, as a tester, we can use the great or good practices, not the best practices, good practices that we can adopt. First of all, are we actually prioritizing our major test cases or not? Because this is the point there where we are actually not doing anything. We are totally depending upon our Jira tickets that we have finished this particular ticket and move the particular ticket status in the UI part. No, we have to change the approach. And in order to change the approach, we have to make sure that we have to be like an admin and think like a user. Here, what I mean to say, for example, testing, that is good. But if testing, are you a quality believer or are you just closing the Jira tickets? That's the major point. Followed by, in testing, we generally forgot one word, that is auditing. Are we auditing our test cases or not, or after every sprint? This is the main point that we are actually missing in the testing industry right now. One more, you can say that holistic approach that our legend testers are using, transparency of test cases. Because if transparency is missing, how we can make sure that we are in the right track or not? Other than that, health checkup of our org in terms of testing, maintaining test cases. We are not even talking about, because we are on a hurry for a delivery for phase 2, for phase 3. But what about the quality of a phase 1? If you have a defect leakage after not doing these good practices, then you are not in the right direction. So understand the impact, understand the strategy, understand the platform. Why are you doing testing? Are you just doing testing in order to find the bugs? You are in the wrong direction. If you are doing the testing for identifying the risk and assisting the quality to the developers so that they can introduce the checks in their code, that's the way to achieve all those things. Rest, everything is theory. So you have to make sure that whatever you are doing, if you have a good documentation of all those scenarios, like Hema has mentioned one important thing, it is just like a marathon, not a sprint. But in order to run in a marathon, you need a patience level. Are you looking for a simple interest or are you looking for a compounding interest? Find the difference. If you identified the difference between both of them, if you are looking for a simple interest, then don't go. And if you're looking for a long run and looking for a compounding effect of your maintenance and good amount of ROI, then you are in the right tracks. So these are my observation as per my experience and perception of which currently I'm working on all those products.
I really like the points that you bring because it maps also to something that Hima mentioned a few minutes ago about there is a lot of redundancy on that can happen. And to your point, so when I'm making a relationship about collaboration, that's even collaboration and communication, and also the visibility of everything that is happening has to be fully transparent. Otherwise, I imagine if you're going to work on silos, you will end up with teams then again generating redundancy that is completely unnecessary, and it is end up costing more than what is supposed to. And then to your point, be the user, right? Like don't just go ahead and try to find the bug but keep the quality and the user experience and the actual result in mind. And to Hima's point, and what you're saying also is like have a vision to but more proactive, a more proactive approach rather than a reactive one, and that's something that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Hima, can you and I want to switch gears a little bit, and I see that there are some questions coming up in the Q&A panel by a very mysterious and anonymous attendee who didn't want to share their name, but they're asking about how to calculate ROI and how we can audit test cases. So we will touch on those points in a few minutes, but I want to switch gears here a little bit. And Gandharv, you started talking about real world stories and challenges, and I think that is extremely compelling. So let's go ahead and talk about things that you both have seen in real life. So Hima, let's start with you. Can you share with us some real life experiences around challenges that you have encountered with test maintenance? I'm talking flaky tests in fast evolving products or software streets, and how this situation affected the teams that you have been working on.
I mean, multiple, Lucio, I can just, go on and on, given that, I had automation is my portfolio, right? And it's just not on anything for that matter. It could be on performance testing, it could be on security testing. Everywhere you do this scripting, and it has to be reused, right? It has to be maintained. It's not like just for automation. So in one of the large financial institutions, the cases were more than 35,000, I think. Okay, and when actually it was becoming, and it was kind of one single framework. I agree you should have, but they were trying to adopt, or it was like they had the mainframes, they have the distributor, they have the client server, the thick clients, they have the mobile, they have the web, everything. But you need to build your framework such that it is scalable to adopt to all these technologies. But these frameworks were built much, maybe a decade back, right? And today's technology is not scaling up. So we are having a real challenge where we are trying to see how we can decomponentize all these things, reduce the things, because they have sunset quite a few features, but those cases are still there and out there. So it is a laborious effort. As I said, they have not invested. Okay, they're entering investment. As much as you're planning, you also need to make sure that you do the proper investment. It could be in terms of effort, it could be in terms of budget, it could be in terms of your tool licensing, it could be in terms of infrastructure. All this is not even considered, right? They feel I got this tool, X tool, and that's about it, without even looking at the long kind of stuff. So this is one of the challenges that we are facing in this large financial institution where, there is a lot of, we are trying to work out the decomposition. Do I have a straight answer? There is no silver bullet answer, because it's like it's already, I would say it's come to a stage at a place where we have to completely relook at what needs to be done. There's one more, a leading US airline industry that they were doing. They were actually having two different frameworks for the same thing. One was working on an iOS and one on a Android type things. So two different set of test cases to be executed. So it's not just scalable. There is no ROI kind of thing. So we came in, we actually said one framework, one tool, and what we used to take 200%, now it got reduced to 25% of the effort. So,
right.
So we kind of, and we did a mocking of it as well. Another place we recommended functional decomposition for a very large healthcare industry, which is again, they were working on SAP and many other things. We came up with a functional decomposition of it so that it becomes faster and easier. And what used to take, weeks together to execute, it's now just a couple of days kind of a stuff. So I can just go on. There are so many, even in performance testing, a similar exercises needs to be done, because ultimately, functionally, your application could be, stable and all those things. But if it's not meeting the SLAs, the throughput and all those things, you have a poor performance. And today one tweet is more than enough for the application to get shut down, right? So you need to look at it from all aspects as well.
So you mentioned something very interesting. You talk about the framework, and then I've heard you throughout our conversation today multiple times talking about picking the right framework, or multiple organizations they chose different tools for different things. In the testing industry, how important it is for you as an expert in testing, or anyone who is a quality engineer or a quality assurance professional, how important it is to have everything in a centralized platform, rather than having a tool to do mobile testing and a different one to do API testing and a different one to do desktop testing. It is What would be your recommendation, to have it all in one same place so you can have visibility and focus of everything, or how would that go?
One bullet answer. It also depends on how the org structure of the enterprises are as well. It's a federated kind of a stuff is what I see, which works more effective, so that there is some amount of freedom for the individual projects to execute, as well as some of these standard frameworks, these tools, the governance, the metrics, the investments, and all those things can be at a centralized. But how we adopt it, with some amount of tailoring, we leave it to it. But definitely, yes, if there is any change, there has to be a consensus on anything that you bring in. It's not like, one LOB works on it and they completely change, because later on it is not going to be scalable or getting adopted into a centralized one. Then we have a lot of challenges. And that's exactly where as I mentioned earlier, enterprises they are operating from across the different geographies. It could be in US, UK, APAC, ANZ region, whatever is the regions. And everybody looks at it from their angle and have their own framework, their own tools. But as I said, individually they're doing good. When it's a sum, is it really helping the enterprise? I don't think so. So we have seen that, and they're working actually in silos compared to what the mission of the IT vision of what the organization is looking for. So multiple places. There is no one solution we approach. It is always a combination of solutions that we are in. Yeah. And as I said, its prevention is better than cure. It's always better you start, planning it and do the preventive maintenance than getting into a, maintenance in a reactive way, which is far more laborism, far more effort intensive, and far more, I would say, costly.
With that, thank you for sharing that. That's very interesting. And with that, I want to switch my attention to you again, Darif, because one of the things that I'm curious is if you can give us some examples of how to keep, especially when test suites they grow to what he was saying, almost exponential levels. How do you keep those things up to date? And also, I believe there is one of the questions that we have in the Q&A, not necessarily sure this actually maps to what I'm asking right now, but this person is asking, how do you audit a test case? So, but in this case, when the complexity grows, can you share a real life example on when did this happen? How much is too much? And on top of that, how do you keep all this monster of testing and automation up to date?
True. First of all, thanks for asking the audit question. It is a much needed question right now. There are so many KPIs for that particular thing that you have to follow. First of all, understanding the strategy part. That's the most important point. If your organization is not be able to understand the strategy part, planning is only planning until if we are not executing, because execution is the main thing. Then only you can perform audit. Now go back to the real life example. Right now, for example, in Salesforce or in a CRM space, latest release is winter 25 is running, and in the last month spring was there. In the spring, so many you can say that additional functionalities has been removed by the Salesforce itself. Now, by point in time, audit is much needed because your test scenarios are totally, based on the previous versions. But what about the production level maintenance? So this is the one of the parameter for test case audit. Other than that, we are now testers are bit Gen Zs in nature. They generally try to close the ticket without even know what is the acceptance criteria for the same. So in the test case audit, are we actually following the acceptance criteria or not? And then if they are not following that particular acceptance criteria, then at the end, but they will say it is working on my machine, it is not working on your machine.
All
That
right.
is the point. Other than that, you have mentioned like communication, but I want to add one more thing. I generally follow the 2C rule: communication with the collaboration. Because if there is no
Excellent.
collaboration, then there is no sense of communication. Because if I am saying you hi and you say hello, and then I say how are you, then you will be offline. Acknowledgement is missing. Inappropriate, you can say that message is there. So communication is the key to success. But how we can set the communication, that's the main thing. For example, again, real life example. I have reported one bug to Hema and I have written in the chat, Hema, hi Hema, I found this bug. I found this bug. Nothing mentioned. Hema is replying me, question mark. What is this Gandharv? Then Gandharv will say, okay. Now Gandharv is confused. Hema is also confused. Now Lucio guide us. Lucio conveyed me, Gandharv, always start the communication with us by setting the context. If as a tester we are not setting the context, then there is no sense of performing testing. Then there is no chance to achieve the good quality. There is nothing called quality, good quality. Other than that, wearing a t-shirt of quality is everyone's responsibility will not gonna ensure you quality. As a tester, you have to understand the responsibility. As a tester, you have to understand the accountability as well. Because if something is actually breaking in the production level, where is tester? But if everything is working fine in the production, where is my developer?
Right.
That's the thing. Other than that, adoption and learning. These two things that we have to take care of. Because learning, you can learn from blogs, you can learn from podcasts, you can from each and everything. But are we actually practically implementing all those things in our daily lives or not? Because Hema has also mentioned one thing, Gen AI, Gen AI. Are we capable enough to learn Gen AI or not?
Right.
Believe me or not, earn the skills and then you can say that you are confident enough. For example, if you don't know how to write a prompt, then how you can expect from a chat GPT that that chat GPT will give you the correct output? Until and unless if you don't know how to write a prompt as a tester, it is just like a function of garbage in and then garbage out.
All right.
So these are the basic things. As a tester, I'm not saying as a developer, as a quality professional, we have to take care of. Other than that, believe me or not, if you don't have a clean understanding, I'm not saying good understanding, clean understanding. Because if you have a good, clean understanding, you are 100% confident enough in order to boost the confidence in the software or in a service or in a product on which you are currently working upon. So these are my observations from my practical experience that I generally adopt in order to maintain all those things.
That is excellent. I wish that was the end of the webinar because it's very hard to top what, what you just shared with us. But thankfully we have more to come. So, and actually, but we I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I believe we have about 11 minutes, maybe 15 to go, and we still have a couple of things to share. But as we get closer in time, one thing besides what you, Gandalf and Hima have shared, what are some high-level recommendations? And actually, this is where we come to the the higher topic of the story. How can we shift from being reactive to being more proactive in terms of a maintenance strategy? And my question to you is, how can we lower the burden of test maintenance on a QA team? Any recommendations that you can share with the audience and all those wondering like, hey, yeah, test maintenance is an issue. How we can lower the burden on those teams? What recommendations can you give them?
Yeah.
Hima, we're gonna start with it.
Yeah. So, Lucio, first thing, plan. Please spend time planning what you want to do as a maintenance, right? So, and also, please, when I say plan, not just the way you want to do it, have it in your roadmap itself, right? In your strategy, in your roadmap. 2, investment. Please plan your investment both in terms of effort, in terms of budget, in terms of tools, in terms of learnability, in terms of adaptability, all those kind of things. People just overlook investment completely. They are okay to do it now, later on, you know, they just do it. It's like in performance, right? Performance testing is again an afterthought, right? What they do is, I will do, it's all working fine, and say, I don't want this kind of a bandwidth. But later on, when it is not scaling up, they're willing to throw in more hardwares and more bandwidth and all those things, which is actually multi costly, is what I would say. Look into reusability factor. It's important that you look for reusability, right? Because oftentimes you've seen the same piece of code across different modules being rewritten, so it's actually making it more costly. Can you come up kind of a create set of libraries that can be reused, and the cost is also less, and it's also lightweight kind of a stuff. Otherwise, it's making the whole test suite more bulky. Try and do, if you can do adopt a modular approach. Don't make it into monolithic. Adopt a modular approach is another thing that I think. Just don't jump into automation. Just because somebody's saying we need to do automation, don't jump into it. There's nothing like one size fits all. Please adopt, a more, I would say, microscopic view. Take second opinion, to see whether the scale. Look for, alternatives, it's a possibility or not. Don't jump into the tools as well. So while you spend as much time on this, but you also have to look at the long-term view. Is this thing 2 quarters from now, 20, for 8 quarters from now, is it going to work, scale kind of a stuff? So these are certain things if you adopt, and having a proper knowledge management. And also, please, we need to ensure that the team is constantly made aware. Sometimes it has to become a cultural part of it, not just,
Yeah.
consciously. It has to become so much that it becomes a culture de facto kind of thing. Then a lot of these things just gets eliminated. Your maintenance becomes a lot more smoother, a lot more easier. And also the ROI, the return of investment of all this also actually yields results. Otherwise, while per se automation would have yielded result, but the maintenance is becoming such a big elephant out there, you're probably spending more, effort, more budget just to make it work. That maintenance itself is making it work. So that is where we have seen a lot of places that is becoming a challenge for us. So oftentimes I've also seen in, when we have got into it to do some kind of an assessment, we have seen that there is one team doing the automation, another team doing the maintenance part of it. So which means the knowledge of the maintenance team will be so different from the knowledge of this one. So there is no handshake that is happening. So these are the things which is, when it is not collaborative, they are not on the same plane, not on this, this one, there is going to be differences that is cropping in. At the end of the day, the enterprises are the people who are actually losing in the market.
So to summarize, collaboration and communication, planning, which is the very first thing that you mentioned, and also you mentioned something very interesting, which there you go, no size fits all. And one thing that you mentioned that it really got my attention was look into what can be automated. And actually, that is a very good point. Not everything is a candidate for automation. That's when we one conversation that we have been having internally here in Catalan is the integration of manual testing and automation testing. There is not such a thing as replacing manual testing with automation. There's more of a coexistence of both, given that manual testing will always be part of the strategy. And to both of you points, like, you have to understand the product, and for that manual activity has to happen before you understand what can be automated. Switching to you, Gandharv, what recommendations can you give to the audience in terms of how to lower the burden besides all the great stuff that Hima just shared?
Sure. So basically, there are so many things. First of all, as a tester, we are not using the approach of, like, for example, if a developer is writing a code, for them, it's a gold mine for him. But as the tester, we don't consider our test case as a gold mine. We are not maintaining the test cases even in our version controlling system. That's the thing. as a tester, we have to make sure all those things. Now, in the CRM space, basically, why I'm using the CRM space, because it is itself a very big market in the nearby future. Believe me. Here we have different types of environment: developer environment, sandbox environment, production environment. But as a tester, are we focusing on our isolated environment or not? That's the thing. If we as a tester focusing on the isolated environment in order to, all those things, or using the good practices, that will actually gonna help us. Other than that,
Yeah.
we are missing the documentation part. We are still using the standard bug reporting test case template in our organization. We have to change that mindset, because right now, if we our or if in our team, for example, 5 members, one and out of 5 members, if we have only one tester, all remaining 4 persons will wear the hat, but only one of your person in your team will wear the shoes. That is your tester. Do we have mindset in our organization or not? In order to follow, or in order to pursue this particular passion as a quality professional, we have to make sure that each and everything should be transparent in nature. Now, transparency can be come in many ways. In terms of attaching the test execution evidences in the SharePoint, attaching evidences for a particular bug report over the same thread for the tracking purpose. In order to make sure that are we in the right track or not, do we have any cross-functional collaboration or not? Because as an individual contributor, if I'm directly working with my client, I am giving him or her a direct transparency, but I am actually doing in terms of maintaining the automation or not. This is the very good factor that as a tester we are actually missing. But in the organization where we have you can say that uh, an engineering culture, not a software developer or a software tester culture. So that's the
Right.
thing that we have to take care of. Other than that, we generally follow the tools, but we don't follow the testing mindset, because testing mindset is having a greater category over the tools, because tools will come, update, and vanish until unless if they are not acquired. But the
Right.
main thing is, our our tool is actually solving our correct problem or not. If I am facing a problem in Salesforce which is related to the Shadow DOM, and I'm using a tool which is not compatible for that particular Shadow DOM, then there is no sense of investment. But we are doing POC and just billing, or you can say that entry billing in our daily hours. This is not a good practice. Other than that, we have to make sure that are we actually understand the data requirements or not, because this is also a point which is totally missing. We only focusing on data which is present or which is random, but there is no set of data which is standardized for a tester so that he or she can use in the nearest future during the regression part. Because at the end, regression is the main skill of any tester, where we can find more and more bugs. We have to understand the difference between SIT and UAT. Here, basically, as a tester, we generally say UAT means user acceptance testing. No, but it is generally performed by tester itself only. You can't depend on product owner and business analyst to perform testing on it. And you can't depend on your developer, because for a developer, his code, his number one code. But our main agenda as a tester is to make sure that are we introducing new checks in the code of a developer to make sure that all the worst case scenario has been consider it or not. So these are the few ways or the good practices that we can use.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. We are running out of time, but I don't want to leave without asking each one of you these questions. We have been talking about test maintenance almost as if it was a negative thing. And I don't want the audience to leave thinking, oh, we have to maintain things. We want to avoid maintenance, which I don't think is the case. What is your opinion on seeing maintenance not as a cost, but as an investment for the future? Can you give me, Hima, can you give me a 30 seconds opinion on that view?
Okay, so maintenance, as I said, is a marathon. So you cannot have, there is no shortcuts to any of those things. But if you do it rightly, believe me, it is going to work like us, magic.
There you go. Excellent. How about you, Yandar?
Okay. It's just like a marathon, but it depends on the age of your automation. That's the only thing. Because if you're very quick, then you can easily complete the marathon. But in order to compete in the marathon, consistency is the keys to success. If you're not
Yeah.
consistent with your efforts, then there is no sense of maintaining the automation. So you have to use the good practices with a practical testing mindset. And in your mind, you have only one thing or one agenda, how you can minimize the risk. This is the only way to achieve. So this is my perception.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. Well, we have come to time. Thank you for being here again, Darf. Thank you so much for being here, Hima. It has been a fantastic pleasure. I am honored to have had this opportunity to have the conversation with both of you. To our audience, this recording is going to be available in catalan.com/webinars. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and put in here the link in the chat that you can go ahead and follow that page. We're going to have these and many other webinars on demand. As I mentioned, this is the second episode of the Quality Horizon. We have another one coming up in January. Gandalf, thank you so much. Ima, thank you so much. The audience, have a wonderful day and thank you so much for being here. And we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.